Okay, good evening. It is 6:30 p.m., March 8th, 2023, and the meeting of the Urban Design Commission will now come to order. May we have a roll call?
Nicole Ream.
Here.
Monica Sullivan.
Here.
Edith McKee. Here. Allison Gordy.
Here.
Mark Cox.
Present.
Alexandra Nanello.
Here.
Julia Folland is excused. You have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to minutes. We have minutes from Friday, January 27th. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes? We have a motion from Commissioner Gordy and a second from Commissioner Sullivan. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay, moving on to special orders of business. Are there any disclosures this evening? Commissioner McKee.
I need to disclose that I live, regarding case 2023-0022, I live in Airport Heights, and while I don't know the petitioner and I have no financial gain, I do need to disclose that I do live in the neighborhood.
Okay, let's get a motion to direct Commissioner McKee to participate, and then we can have discussion if there needs to be. So I need a motion and a second. We have a motion from Commissioner Sullivan and a second from Commissioner Gordy. Are there any commissioners who wish to discuss this? Okay. I heard that you said you live in the neighborhood and you have no financial gain. Can you be impartial?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Okay, so let's take a vote to direct Commissioner McKee to participate in case 2023-0022.
Commissioner Cox.
My apologies. I had one question before we did the vote. Are we too late on that?
All right, thank you.
Please proceed, Commissioner Cox. You have a question?
Yes, Commissioner McKee, how close in regards to, let's say, cedar blocks, whichever one you're more comfortable with, are you with the petitioner in proximity where you live?
How many blocks? Is this within the same subdivision?
Yes.
You can say whatever you want.
I live within the same subdivision.
Commissioner
Okay, thank
Cox,
you.
she's not comfortable giving her address.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's why I said cedar acres, or what was it? Some type of measurement. But okay, yeah, I'll say no for now.
He said no. Was that a vote?
Was a nay vote?
Was that a nay vote?
Yes, that was my vote.
Please repeat.
Yes, nay.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the vote. We have a nay vote from Commissioner Cox. Okay, so we have 4 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstaining, so you will be recused from the case. Right. Okay, are there any other disclosures? My apologies, I have one too. Okay. I do have a disclosure. It's regarding case 2023-0016, the major site plan review for car wash. The firm, PTS, that I work for provided the survey and civil design for this site plan. I have had no special knowledge or involvement in this project, nor have I or will I gain financially from this project.
May I please get a motion to direct Chair Rem to participate? So it's been moved by Commissioner Gordy and seconded by Commissioner Nahalo. Is there any other discussion?
So I took what you said to mean that you were not on the design team. Is that correct? Even though your company, yes, was, but you personally were not on the design team?
Correct.
Okay.
Question, Commissioner Cox?
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
When it comes to the company, are you the owner of it or an employee, Chair Ree?
I am an employee.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, may we please vote to direct Chair Rem to participate in case 2023-0016.
Commissioner Cox?
Yay.
Just to clarify, that was a yes?
Yes, it was.
All right, thank you.
The motion passes and Commissioner Rem will participate.
Thank you. Okay, I will continue as chair. Number 2, the annual election of officers. What? Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to pass it to the end of the meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Sullivan has made a motion to move this meeting to the end. Can we get a second on that meeting?
Second.
I mean, election.
Commissioner Cox.
Okay, Commissioner Cox has given a second, as has Nanalo. So do we need to vote on that? Okay.
If I've been recused from the...
Come back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you have to come back. Okay, so on that note, we have a motion to move the annual elections and a second to the end of the meeting. Everybody, please vote.
Commissioner Cox?
Hear that. Could you repeat that, please?
We have a motion on the floor to move the annual elections to the end of the meeting.
I vote yes.
Thank you. And that motion passes, so we will move that to the end of the meeting. That moves us right into the regular agenda. Thank you. I had to clarify whether or not we would have a short board. We're moving on to public hearings, and the first case before us is that DeBar Car Wash, so we do have a quorum. So this is considered a public hearing, so I will read the procedure by which the public may speak to the Urban Design Commission at its meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Urban Design Commission at its meeting is, 1, after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony. 2, persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Urban Design Commission Rules of Procedure. Those are: petitioners, including all of his or her representatives, are given 10 minutes. So if you do have another person you wish to have speak, please make sure that you save time for them to speak. And then also you have the ability to reserve some of that 10 minutes for rebuttal. So please do say what amount of time you'd like to reserve for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs are given 5 minutes, and individuals are given 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the commission. Any party of interest wishing to appeal shall first file with the planning director within 7 days of the commission's decision made on the record a written notice of intent to appeal in accordance with AMC 21.03.050 A4A. Commission recommendations to the Anchorage Assembly are not appealable. Following approval of the written findings of fact and decision, any party of interest may, within 20 days, file an appeal by filing a notice of appeal and paying the appeal fee and deposit in accordance with Section 21.03.050. The notice of appeal must be filed with the planning director on a form prescribed by the municipality. If the appellant is not the applicant, the appellant's notice of appeal shall include proof of service on the applicant. Okay, so the first case we have is 2023-0016. The petitioner is the DeBar Car Wash with a major site plan review for a car wash. May we have staff's presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chair Ream. This site plan would demolish the existing car wash building on the site that has been closed in recent months and replace it with a brand new car wash. Car washes are allowed by right in the B3 district, but there is a special limitation on the B3 zoning for this site that requires this major site plan review. There are 4 approval criteria for major site plan reviews in Title 21. The first is that the site plan is consistent with any previously adopted plats or other approvals. Underlying plat 2000-70 is in attachment 5. There are several easements on this plat, including ones for landscaping and sanitary sewer facilities. The department finds that this criterion is met by the conditions of approval, particularly approval criteria 5 to get sign-off from AWU on any development in the sanitary sewer easement, AWU being the Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility. The petitioner did submit an updated site plan. This has been provided to the commission as additional information. The site plan does address some of the concerns already from AWU. So that updated site plan shows that the only remaining items in that sewer easement are paving and curb, which is okay by AWU. They were more concerned about the overhead, like the little overhead thing you would drive under the structure being in the easement. Criteria 2 is that the site plan complies with all applicable development and design standards set forth in Title 21. This criterion is met with conditions of approval that require some additional information to address some standards, as well as administrative approvals for the driveway width, snow storage, and noise. The department does not foresee any anticipated issues with following through on these conditions of approval. The third criterion is that the site plan addresses any significant adverse impacts that can reasonably be anticipated to result from the use by mitigating or offsetting those impacts to the maximum extent feasible. This criterion is met. The use of the parcel will remain the same. Use-specific requirements for landscaping and a review by the Health Department regulations on noise will mitigate any adverse impacts. The final criteria 4 is that the development proposed in the site plan is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. This criterion is partially met. The 2040 land use plan designates the area as compact mixed residential medium. However, the site plan would redevelop a currently distressed building, and it would be beneficial to allow this redevelopment of a distressed property to move forward, which is consistent with the infill and redevelopment policies that are in the comprehensive plan. At a future time, the property could then be either used differently, or the comprehensive plan could be amended to designate the future land use of the property as commercial. Therefore, the department recommends approval of the site plan subject to conditions 1 through 6. That is the end of my staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Sullivan?
I lost my request. Yes, I have a fast question. I'm just looking at the site plan and the front doors where it's the ADA parking stall and where you have your striping. Seems like there's some maneuvering issues with ADA and the door. I don't know if, I'm supposed that they're missing the curb, but do you check for those, I mean, that type of stuff? Seems like we'll ask then the presenter about that. Seems like there's a conflict, but I'm not sure.
Through the chair, Commissioner Sullivan, yes, the site plan was routed to the traffic engineering department. So I believe they would have commented on that if they thought it would be an issue. I know that they had requested dimensions for several items. I suppose the commission could amend the conditions of approval if you want to. I would add something to the likes of under the traffic engineering, just add another letter that says that they sign off on the ADA accessibility dimensions. That would be how I would handle it if you still have concern with it.
Yeah, it's just, you know, where you're going to put the ramp seems like that's where the door swings out, but thank you.
Are there any other questions of staff? Commissioner McKee? Oh, Commissioner McKee.
Hello. On page 6 of our packet, under criteria 2, item 21-07.100 exterior lighting, it says lighting in the parking facilities for the school must meet guidelines set by the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America to prevent glare to motorists and lighting onto adjacent property. Do we need to revise that to say from this facility, or is there a revision needed?
Vice Chair McKee, no, that was a typo on my part. I apologize for that. It got through the review as well. That language is not in the conditions of approval. I just double checked under condition 4D, just says provide minimum lighting calculations, but it doesn't have that inadvertent reference. So I apologize for that typo that was in there.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has questions for staff?
One more question.
Yes.
I'm looking again at the parking. It seems like the last parking, the one that is at the east side, right in front of the building, that has enough maneuvering to turn the car back and out, since it's a dead end?
Commissioner Sullivan, through the chair, there is a condition of approval with traffic engineering where it seems like they did share that concern where,
Okay.
Yeah, it says that they recommended either removing one of the parking spaces or removing one of the vacuum islands to solve that issue.
there you go. There's your opportunity for the ADA entry.
Thank you. If there are no other questions of staff, is the petitioner here? Please come forward. State and spell your name for the record. And then let me know if you want any minutes held for rebuttal.
Good evening. My name is Austin Davis, spelled A-U-S-T-I-N, and I am joined by Tanner Brandt, T-A-N-N-E-R, B as in boy, R-A-N-D as in dog, T.
And your last name is Tanner?
His first name is Tanner. My last name is Davis.
Okay, thank you. And do you want to hold any time for rebuttal?
Yeah. 3 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. You can proceed.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Austin Davis. I'm one of the owners of the proposed Tommy's Express Car Wash, and I am joined by Tanner Brandt of the Christensen Companies, who will help in assisting answer your questions. Brief background on Tommy's Express. Tommy's story began in 1969 as a small family business founded by June and Sonny Essenberg in their hometown of Holland, Michigan. What began as one car wash over 50 years has evolved under the leadership of June's son Tom into one of the industry's leading equipment manufacturers. In 2016, the Tommy's Express franchise was born, founded by June's grandson, Ryan, with the goal to share their proven building and equipment model with the world. In 2017, my family and I took the leap of faith and became the 7th franchisee out of what is now over 200 franchise partners. We currently have 4 operating stores in Kansas and Oklahoma, with more on the way. Being a small family business has always been at our heart and is what brought us to Anchorage, Alaska, with the marriage of my brother to Alaskan native Katrina Wood. Falling in love with Alaska, we knew that we wanted to share what we do best with this community. It is also my understanding that all the staff involved in this process has been extremely helpful, and I want to thank them for their time, assistance, and I appreciate the thoroughness, and I hope that Tanner and I can bring clarity to any remaining questions or concerns that you guys may have. At this time, I'd open it to Tanner to address the more specific questions.
So yeah, I'd just like to talk about our site plan for a minute here. Obviously, we're off of DeBar Road, where there's an existing car wash that you can see here. You will, in order to get to the wash, you'll get off of DeBar Road and drive north onto the private drive and turn into our driveway. Customers will drive to the south end and through the pay lanes on the south side of the building. The first lane closest to the building, is there's a manned cashier who takes cash and credit cards. Those are for individual washes. Second and third lanes are for Tommy Club members. This is a monthly membership where people pay a monthly fee for unlimited car washes. Uses license plate reader technology that are on the Tommy's Express app. It reads your license plate and allows you directly through into the wash. You'll go in as you see the stacking there around the the radius there into the wash where you get onto the conveyor belt system. The conveyor belt technology is unlike the older chain and roller technology where there's nothing covering your tire. It's basically a conveyor belt that just pulls your car directly through the wash. These washes also reclaim about 33% of the water that is used on the cars and reuses it on the lower portions of the future washes. As you go through the wash and you come around to take a turn to the north, you'll get into the vacuum stalls. Those are free vacuums for customers. I guess the other thing I wanted to touch on is the conditions of approval, staff's been very helpful, and we've been doing our best to work back and forth with them. We are good with all of the conditions of approval, and we'll update our plans however we need to and make sure we get those approvals. So with that, here's what we have now, and these are some colored elevations that show what will be on the site, assuming this is approved. And we have some other pictures here of some existing washes and the different angles of the wash. So. With that, we thank you for your time, and we're open to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have questions. Commissioner McKee.
Hello. So one of the conditions is, and it looks like in your plan you intend to plow snow and remove it off-site, but in your site plan, have you looked at where you would provide temporary snow storage?
Yes, I believe we would plan to have some temporary snow storage along the south edge of the site, I believe. Probably some over by the dumpster, but we would get into that agreement with the city to make sure that it's hauled off whenever it needs to be.
Okay. And then I had another question for you. So one of the conditions is that the access driveway is reduced from 43 to 34 feet. Will you have issue with meeting turning radius compliance or with vehicle access and exit with that reduced driveway width?
I believe we could meet it. I don't think that would be an issue, but we are planning on submitting a waiver to allow the wider access.
Okay. And then my other question is, are you intending to, I saw that you have like a recapture of water of about 30%. Is your intention for your on-site runoff to contain that on-site, or are you planning to contribute to the existing storm drain system that's in the roadway?
I believe we'll be connecting to the existing system for the stormwater runoff. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan.
Hi, how are you? So a few questions. One, can you explain, once you check in your 3 lanes, what's the organization passing when you check in? It seems like who goes next, or how do that works?
So we have a lane controller, which, as you can see, we can stack 7 vehicles in this lane. They are all sequential based upon when our cameras recognize your license plate, and then thus opening the gate to give you the correct wash package.
Okay, and I'm assuming, I'm just questioning the same that I questioned the staff, that you're having an ADA ramp.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I won't put it in the conditions, but I think you should consider moving it one to the right or something like that, so you have enough space with the door and the maneuvering.
And this might just be this specific drawing, but on all of my existing washes, there is an 8-foot wide ADA ramp in front of those 2 doors.
And just to clarify, those 2 doors are for a mat washer that you can take your car mats and wash them through. It's not an entrance to the building.
There are no public access points to the building.
So who uses that parking stalls there?
That would be for employees.
And then you have a little window, like a teller, close to that thing. Do you have like bollards or something to protect your building from getting hit?
Steel bollards?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Just observation. Thank you.
No.
Thanks, Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner McKee, you have another question?
Yeah, hi, sorry, I have another question. If you're going to be contributing to the storm drain system of the city, is there a plan to treat runoff before you, just because of the nature of a car wash, people are going to be washing off oil and other material?
Yeah, I mean, basically, all of the runoff is, with the dryers is all getting put back into the reclamation system. There's some that drips off after, but the car is, has any, any of the dirt or anything that's coming off of the car is all staying in the wash, any detergents or anything. But then as you come out, you just have the, whatever's left over after the dryers. So that's a pretty minimal amount that's running off, but we have been working with the engineering department to make sure that we are, meeting any codes for stormwater.
Great, thank you.
We also have a on-property 40,000-gallon oil water separator that will allow us to separate the oils and also all dirt and contaminants we are pumping out monthly, and they're being hauled off by sanitation department.
That's what I was hoping to hear, that there's an oil grit separator.
Commissioner Cox with a question.
Please proceed, Commissioner Cox.
Hey, so love the idea. I think I've seen it in Texas before, or I think it's called wash tub or something. And so it inspired me with this thought of, I see, you're consolidating the vehicles into one lane, they get washed, and then they, I'm sure, get dried and then parked by the vacuum area. My question is, when there's a lot of patrons, have you considered, so they're already telling you to shrink the driveway, but I understand you're going to try to apply for a waiver. But what happens when there's a lot of traffic? Where does the overflow traffic go? Because I know this is kind of common of what I've seen in the lower 48. Like I said, in Texas, I think I've seen it in California, the same type of car wash thing that you're going for. Have you considered where the overflow traffic goes? Because I know you're kind of on a busy-ish intersection.
I wish I had a better answer for this. Unfortunately, we can only have so many vacuums, and on the really busy days, we can never have enough. And given that the vacuums are free, and with your Unlimited Club membership, you can come by anytime, go next door to one of the other retailers and come back and visit the site at that point in time.
And the other thing
Okay, well,
sorry, just for any stacking issues that may be brought up, this wash, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to get the car through the wash, and we've got sufficient stacking before and after the pay lanes. We can have 5 cars on the 130-foot tunnel wash at one time, so there's rarely going to be issues that we see in stacking up behind the back on the pay lanes. And the other thing that is nice about this site is that there's no entrance directly off of DeBar Road. There's a private drive behind there that will, allow for a buffer off of DeBar, so cars will know if it's too busy, they can drive right by and go through that frontage road and keep moving.
all right, thank you. Well, thankfully we're UDC and not Shark Tank. So my last question is in regards to, you're saying that the vacuums are free. In regards to your business, will you have a set, what do you call it, lane or slots of parking spaces dedicated to those individuals who are going through the process as opposed to those who are just coming in for the vacuum? Because I feel like that would be an issue of stacking pretty quickly if that occurs. Because, there's people coming for the free service. Then you have others who are in the line to get their service, which it looks like it gets done once their cars are at the vacuum station.
Not sure I totally understand the question. I mean, there's the people that are getting the car wash never get out of their car, so they'll be in their car the whole time, and then the employees will park in the parking spaces, but the vacuums are pretty much just first come, first serve. This is a site that has a pretty good amount of vacuums compared to comparatively for other sites that we've done across the country, so don't envision that being a major issue, and if there's not a vacuum available, they can try and come back at another time.
Okay, that solves the question of operations. So you're saying people don't get out of the car. So that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the petitioner? Seeing and hearing none, we are going to open this hearing to public testimony. And you guys can be excused for the moment.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who wishes to testify? It would appear not. So you've just sat down. Would you like to use any of your remaining time for rebuttal? Okay. If there are no more questions for staff or the petitioner, then the public hearing is now closed. And we can move on to make a motion for this major site plan review.
Could I just interrupt with a
yes.
matter of information? If you could just hit the green button just so the light's not on, that'll make sure our sound is working good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we can get a motion and a second. We have a motion from Commissioner McKee. Commissioner McKee, please state your motion.
I move in case 2023-0016 to approve the site plan for a car wash subject to conditions 1 through 6 shown pages 7 and 8 of the staff report.
Thank you. And we have a second from Commissioner Sullivan. So Commissioner McKee, would you please speak to your motion?
Yes. I intend to support the motion to approve the site plan for the car wash in case 2023-0016 for the following reasons. With regard to condition 1, the site plan complies with plat note number 2, which requires no direct vehicular access to DeBar Road, and plat note number 3, which requires buffer landscaping within a 10-foot easement along DeBar Road. The site plan complies with these easements with a condition of approval to resolve all development in the sanitary sewer easement with AWWU. With regard to criteria 2, the use-specific standard for the fence between the subject property and the residential Russian Jack Manor property to the east will mitigate the negative impacts. The existing use of the site for a car wash will not be changing, and the impact will be similar to the historical use of the site. Also, a condition of approval is to resolve with traffic engineering a pedestrian connection to DeBar, but not pedestrian access is required to the access road. Additionally, the proposed use is a car wash, which falls under the use definition for minor vehicle service and repair. A 6-foot fence is required at the east property boundary within the side setback to screen. A condition of approval is for the petitioner to show the health department approves of compliance with section 15.70. The proposed development meets setbacks, lot area, and width requirements for the B3 district in table 21.06.020C. Snow storage and disposal, based on my questions and your responses, it seems that you do have a plan to meet the requirement to address the alternative snow management strategy, to have alternative snow management agreement with the municipality, and to show the temporary storage location for plowed snow awaiting removal on the plan site. There is a recommendation in here to use landscaping that is not a moose attractant, and so I assume that you will also be doing that. Let's see here. Criteria 3 is met, and criteria 4, the development proposed in the site plan is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. Policy 21 specifically says, in order to use existing commercial land more efficiently, redevelopment, conversion, and reuse of underused commercial areas shall be encouraged, which seems like the intent of this, to take something that's not being used and is sitting vacant and put a new facility in there. So I intend to support. You've met the 4 criteria required, and it seems as if you have a plan to address the additional department recommendations 1 through 6.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to speak to your Second?
Yes, I would like to I intend to support the case 2023-0016, and I would just like to compliment on the use of colors, change of material, change in planes, and volume elevations. I think, thank you for taking care of that.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to add findings or speak to the motion? Hearing none, let's move to vote.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you for your attendance this evening, and yes, I can't wait to wash my car here. I'm excited. Okay. Okay, we have one more case on our public hearing agenda, and that is case 2023-0022. The petitioner is Richard and Michelle McCartan with a request for a design variance. Okay. We previously recused Commissioner McKee, so she will be leaving the room before we start. Yeah, we'll come get you. No, we'll come get you. Sorry. And once Commissioner McKee has left the room, we will move into the staff's presentation. Oh, my goodness, I forgot. My apologies, you guys. So I am going to read for you this evening the short board policy. Just so you know, we have 5 voting members, and you will need all 5 to vote yes in order for the motion to pass. I'm going to read the options that you have. Sorry, I got to find them first. Okay. When there's a short 5-member board or commission and a postponement is offered to and agreed by the petitioner, they will be moved to the next regular agenda. This should occur within 30 days, which does not require renoticing the case. So no new public hearing notices or advertising. If the petitioner is willing to postpone but unable to attend the next available meeting within 30 days, the petitioner has a one-time only option to choose the next date certain that he or she can attend at no extra fee. When a postponement is requested by the petitioner, there is a rescheduling fee per AMCR 21.20.007.a, and a new public hearing date shall be determined by the planning department. This will put the case in the next available cutoff date queue as if you were submitting the case for the first time. So I've read the requirements for, or the options for the short board. If the petitioner could please come forward and state your name and spell it for the record, and let us know if you would like to continue this or postpone. Oh, I'm sorry, you'll have to turn the green, I think it's the green button. Green
Piece
star.
of tape. There we go. Thank you. I'm Richard McCartan, R-I-C-H-A-R-D, M-C-C-A-R-T-A-N. This is my wife, Michelle. I'm not sure I can spell it.
M-I-C-H-E-L-E, M-C-C-A-R-T-A-N.
And we're going to continue.
Okay, all right, well, thank
We've
you.
been stressed out for a year, so we're not going to put it off any longer.
Okay. And you are aware that if there's one nay vote, that it will not pass? Okay. Okay, well, you can have a seat while we hear the staff's presentation. Thank you.
And petitioner, turning the microphone off. I appreciate it. Thank you. This is a variance request from AMC 2107-110 F4CV site access alleys to allow a 24-foot wide curb cut and driveway and a 2-car garage that faces the street, Alder Drive. The site has constructed and maintained alley access to the east and fronts Alder Drive to the west. AMC 2107-110 F4C states that a single-family dwelling, two-family dwelling, or townhouse dwelling with 2 units with alley access may have a garage or driveway that faces the street with a garage door that is no wider than 10 feet at the driveway and no wider than 12 feet at any point. Their request is for a 24-foot wide curb cut and driveway. The intent of AMC 2107-110 F4 alleys is to promote vehicle driveway across rear alleys and reduce the impacts of front yard driveways in older urban neighborhoods. The subject property is located within the Airport Heights neighborhood and is within a traditional neighborhood design area. AMC 2107-110 F4CV allows for an exception to alley access for street frontage by limiting the curb cut and driveway to not exceed 12 feet at any point and a 1-car garage not to exceed 10 feet. While the applicant does state that there are properties within the neighborhood with 24-foot wide curb cuts and a 2-car garage that front the street rather than the constructed and maintained alley, the reference properties were constructed and permitted prior to the 2014 rewrite of this AMC Title 21. It would not be permitted under existing code or references properties that do not have a constructed alley. Agency comments are attached, and the traffic engineering provided comment that supports alley access but does not object to approval of this variance. A total of 204 public hearing notices were mailed on February 10, 2023. At the time of this writing, 3 public comments were received, and please note in item G2, supplementary packet 1, there were late comments that were received. The Airport Heights Community Council did not provide comment. The following approval criteria must be met. Standard A is not met. The intent of AMC 2107-110F4A alleys is to promote vehicle driveway access from rear alleys and reduce the impacts of front yard driveways in older urban neighborhoods. The applicant is requesting approval for a proposed 2-car garage and 24-foot wide curb cut and driveway and does not propose alternative design that achieves the intent or to the same or better degree. The proposed variance will result in decreased visibility on the main street due to increased number of vehicles due to the wider curb cut and 2-car garage on the main street rather than the constructed and maintained alley, changing the character of the traditional urban neighborhood. Standard B is not met. The Anchorage 2040 Land Use Plan designates this parcel as single-family and two-family and encourages a variety of low-density urban and suburban residential neighborhoods. The parcel is also within a traditional neighborhood design growth supporting feature which enhances existing urban patterns of development that have a more highly interconnected street system. Alleys are an integral part of traditional neighborhood design characteristics which inform AMC Title 21 requirements. Approval of this variance for access to Alder Drive rather than the alley does not achieve the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. Standard C is not met. The intent of the site access alley standard is access is taken for parking from the alley rather than the street to limit vehicle access on the main street and avoid larger curb cuts in traditionally smaller neighborhoods. There is a constructed and maintained alley to the east of the parcel that would permit a 2-car garage and 24-foot wide curb cut and driveway. The applicant has not demonstrated that their alternative results in a better benefit to the community. Standard D is met. Granting of this variance is not anticipated to adversely affect the use of adjacent properties. Standard E is partially met. This is a permitted use in the R1 single-family residential district, and granting this variance will not permit a use otherwise permitted. However, the intent of AMC 2107-110F for alleys is to promote vehicle access from the rear alleys and reduce the impact of front yard driveways in these older urban neighborhoods such as Airport Heights is. Permitting driveway access to Alder Drive rather than the constructed and maintained alley access increases the impact of driveway frontage and reduces the amount of sidewalk within the neighborhood. Properties within this neighborhood with a 24-foot wide curb cut were driveways that were developed prior to the requirements of this code. Standard F is met. This variance is not related to ADA accessibility. Standard G is met. There are no health or safety issues that will be caused by approval of this variance. Standard H is met. The standard is not applicable and does not relate to signs. AMC 2103-240 requires that the variance request substantially meet all 8 of the design variance standards in order for a variance to be granted. The department finds standards A, B, and C are not met. E is partially met, and D, F, G, and H are met. Therefore, the department recommends denial of the variance. If, however, after a public hearing, the board finds that the standards are substantially met, approval shall be subject to condition 1 on page 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we have a question from Commissioner Sullivan.
And I'm sorry I'm not a civil engineer, but who maintains the alley clear of snow?
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe it is municipally maintained, but
And it gets equally maintained in the street?
I would have to confirm with street maintenance.
Okay, and then I have another question. We're talking about the character of the neighborhood, and I'm looking at the picture that it's on page 8. And I'm looking at the neighborhood and trying to understand what's the pattern here. And there's no alleys in any of the other blocks. Why is this block has an alley, just one block? So when we're talking about codes, we're here to support the code because we're trying to do some achievements here with the code and protect the city. But when I see this plan, there's no alleys and seems that it's just this block. Do you guys take into consideration that?
Thank you. Through the chair, Commissioner Sullivan, there is an alley between Alder Drive and Sunrise Drive, as well as north above East 18th Avenue. That block has a continuing pattern of the alley. Unfortunately, I can't speak to the subdivision design as this is a plat P138 done well before my time.
And then you have here a comment, and I think it was on the finding number A, and you're saying that the proposed variance will result in decrease of visibility on the main street. There's parking in the street, right? Like street parking.
Thank you. Through the chair, there is street parking permitted in this neighborhood. The decreased visibility comes when vehicles are additionally allowed to park in the driveways along the front of this, if they were fronting the street rather than the alley.
Yeah, but it seems to me that the cars in the street will obstruct more the visibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Is there anyone else who has a question for staff? Hearing none. Oh, okay, my apologies. Commissioner Gordy.
I just have one quick question. I know this was implemented in the 2014 rewrite of Title 21. Is there any background, and I know this is kind of a left field obscure question, but is there any background as to why this was added as a requirement with the alleyway access?
Thank you. Through the chair, Commissioner Gordy, I believe it was put in place to try to preserve the character of the traditional urban neighborhoods that do typically have more consistent alleys. It previously was a standard that all neighborhoods that had alley access had to access that alley, and then code was more recently changed to only require it in traditional neighborhoods, such as Airport Heights. Other than that, I can't provide background.
So in essence, it became less restrictive in some regards?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions of staff, will the petitioner please come forward? You do need to state your name and spell it for the record one more time. And, yeah.
Richard McCartan, RICHARDMCCARTAN.
And Michelle McCartan, MICHELEMCCARTAN.
Thank you. And do you wish to reserve any of your time for rebuttal?
Yes, we just have a short statement I'm going to read, and
Okay.
then,
And then
for
okay.
rebuttal and questions.
Sounds good.
Go.
Go ahead.
First of all, we'd like to thank you guys for serving on the Community Urban Design Commission. We're grateful for the commission and for this opportunity that you provide to affect change on our behalf. We moved to Anchorage from Kenai after retiring in June 2021 to be closer to our grown children and their families, two of which live in Airport Heights. That was our primary motivation for purchasing the uninhabitable 70-year-old home on 1925 Alder Drive in May of 2021. We planned to take down the old home and build a new home that would meet our needs as we get older and less mobile. We were blindsided when our building permit was denied because of the two-car garage facing the street with a 24-foot wide driveway and curb cut. Because the lot abuts an alley, the traditional neighborhood design code limits the garage, as was said, to a single 10-foot door, maximum door width, and the driveway and curb cut width to a maximum of 12 feet. On-street parking is an obvious problem in Airport Heights, and we've seen the magnitude of this problem this past winter with all the snow. Not only is it annoying, it's dangerous. There have been times when emergency vehicles would have had a hard time getting through. The traditional neighborhood design code's intent of the two-car garage facing the street restriction for houses which abut an alley is probably in response to the on-street parking problem. The code states to minimize front yard impacts. This code will only serve to stifle new construction. Alleys are minimally maintained at best and are not a viable alternative to using the primary street. If we're granted this variance request, we will be parking our two cars in the garage whenever we're at home and will not be contributing to the on-street parking problem. We believe our design is at least equal to, if not better, than the traditional design standard in all respects. Other than planning, none of the governmental reviewing agencies had any objections to our variance request. Thank you again, and we'll reserve the rest of our time for questions and rebuttal.
Thank you. Are there questions? Commissioner Gordy.
Sorry for our technical difficulties here. I just have a couple of questions for you guys. The first one is, when you had this house designed, did your designer or engineer do any sort of preliminary zoning or code study before you turned in your building permit?
I don't know if you looked through the background information, Kate kind of gave the sequence of events that has led to this variance request.
Yes.
And our designer and our engineer are both in Kenai. We knew him from a little kid, and so they were not aware of this. The realtor who sold us a property said nothing about the alley. It wasn't in a title report. We had to have a proposed plot plan done by Lang Engineering, which has done tons of mortgage surveys here in town and as-builts. He picked up right away on our lot coverage issue, which I went in and discussed with the Planning Commission, but he said nothing about the two-car garage. He was unaware of that. In fact, I spent about a half a day. I originally went in with our original plan in February, over a year ago. Spent a whole morning with them, with the intake officer, two people in zoning, and a person in planning, just going, we knew we had the lot coverage issue. We had a greenhouse that we wanted to know why we wanted to move it closer to the back line. And you can do that with an alley, which we didn't know. So, I mean, they were very much aware that there was an alley there, and they had our plans that had an alley. and a two-car garage, and I spent a whole morning working because our lot coverage was too big because of the second story, and so we had to bring the second story. So we essentially decided to redesign our whole house to meet this lot coverage issue because nothing had been said by any of those people in planning about the two-car garage being an issue. So then we redesigned, re-engineered because the trusses were all changed. Originally it was a plan that we had done for a river lot we had in Kena. That's where we were going to retire, but we decided we wanted to move up here, be close to our kids. And we had the plan, so I said, well, let's use this plan. It worked on the lot, we thought. And so I've lost my train of thought here, the sequence.
But I did read the packet, so I'm assuming where you're going is that you redesigned based on the parameters that you were talked through at the Muni and the permitting
Yeah.
department, and then
Had we been aware of this, we would have
Okay.
never purchased the lot in the first place, because
Got
we
it.
wanted a two-car garage on the street, and it just, and so then so we went back in then, I think in April with to apply for the permit the second time. Actually, right away, they were the first ones that got it, they approved the permit, and then when it got to traffic, this code was discovered and blindsided us and stopped everything. And at that point, in between there, because of lead times for getting cabinets, and we had purchased non-refundable, about $40,000 worth of cabinets and appliances and garage doors, and it was like, oh, you guys can't do this. So at that point, we were kind of beyond the point of no return. So we said, well, we're going to do it. If they give us a two-car garage, great. If they don't, we're going to live with a one-car garage.
Got it.
And probably end up parking in the street.
Thank you for the clarity on that. I think you actually answered my other question in that discussion, so thank you.
Before I see if there's others that wish to speak, I want to clarify, you had said that the right-of-way department approved the plot plan as submitted.
And then when it came up in traffic, we had to go back and right away then we had to, that's when we modified it from a 24-foot down to a 12-foot. Right away, it already approved it, so they were obviously unaware of this code. I mean, so your question alluding to, did we use a designer that should have known it? I don't think too many people know about it.
I'm just looking at page 46 of our staff packet, which shows an approved plot plan by Travis Just, who is in the right-of-way department on 42722, and it says as amended or as noted, which is a 12-foot max per 2107, and it shows omitting the northern 12 feet.
Commissioner Ream, can I provide clarification?
Please.
Reviewer Just in the traffic engineering department, not right-of-way.
Oh, he was in the right-of-way department. Sorry, that's my problem.
He was, but the day that this was done, he had already been transferred to traffic engineering.
That was my misunderstanding. I assumed that he was he used to be in the right-of-way department.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't catch that. but
I rescind my question. Okay, are there any other questions for the petitioner? My apologies for interrupting. None? Okay. I guess now that we will open the meeting to a public hearing for testimony. Is there anyone here who wishes to testify? Please state your full name and spell it for the record.
Hello, my name is Mark McCartan, MarkMcCartan.
Thank you. You may proceed.
I'm the son of the petitioners, as you might have guessed. I do live in the neighborhood. I'm a homeowner there. I've been there about 3 years. My sister's in the neighborhood as well. She was here earlier through small kids who didn't make it this long. I just want to speak in support of their petition. I love our neighborhood. It's a great place, lots of young families. It's been a great place to raise our kids so far. One of the worst things about the neighborhood is the street parking situation, particularly in wintertime. It's a pain. You can barely get one car through amongst the other cars. There have been issues with getting emergency vehicles through. it's a real problem. I think that having a two-car garage and a wider curb, our neighbor has one. Of course, he doesn't back up on an alley. There's, I think, 3 alleys in the entire neighborhood. They're certainly not common within the neighborhood. And so I don't see why it should cause an issue. One of the things I do really like about our neighborhood is the community. One of my sister's good friends got a notice on their car that they needed to get all of the cars out of the street so that they could plow and widen things back out in the middle of winter. And there's very limited places to shuffle cars to. And so my parents let them park their car for the day, like day and a half, at their house in the neighborhood so that the plows could come through. And I think it just kind of highlights the issues that there are with street parking and with just very limited spaces to put cars within the neighborhood. And so I think that having the two-car driveway and garage would help that situation. That's all I have to say.
Are there any questions for Mr. McCartan? Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak? Seeing none. I guess, do you have anything else you would like to add as rebuttal? Make sure to state your name again.
Richard McCartan, R-I-C-H-A-R-D, M-C-C-A-R-T-A-N. It's kind of our position that a two-car garage and a driveway design accessing the primary street is by definition superior. The primary street is paved, it's graded for drainage, it has curbs and gutter, and it's jealously guarded by the city. The alley, on the other hand, our alley is not, it's got some surfacing, not completely. It's got potholes. It drains onto our lot. The drainage is not good. Coming off East 20th, it's hard to find the alley in the evening to where you enter the alley. I think if you asked 100 people which design they would prefer, that at least 51 of them would say, well, we want the garage that faces the main street. They both get 2 cars off the street. They both would have adequate parking for 2 visitor cars in the driveway. We don't see how they can say that the alley one is a better design than the one to the main street. We don't understand that. My wife and I are both 70. I'm not going to ask my wife to drive in an alley for the rest of our life through 5 months of winter and another month of breakup when there's a street in the front of our house that at least gets plowed some. You see the words through their thing that it's constructed and maintained. Well, it's constructed, maintained, maybe. In fact, I think the church at the end of our alley is the one that maintains our alley. I don't believe the city maintains it at all. And if something happened to the church, which does happen, then we might not have much maintenance at all. The other thing is that traffic, I think it's probably the same gentleman that stopped our house in the first place as the one that provided comments here at the reviewing agency, and I enjoyed his comments. He ended essentially saying that if it wasn't for that alley, this is fully permissible, that he had no objections to you guys allowing us or granting us this variance. I appreciated that.
It looks like we have a question for you from Commissioner Nanalo.
Yeah, hi there. This is actually also a question for staff, and that is regarding if this alley is maintained or not. Is it not plowed? I mean, is that accurate? How well is this maintained? Because asking retired folks to go into a place that's not maintained, is not plowed, it's actually not safe. So I do want to understand if that is an accurate representation and how often this is maintained, because that's pretty significant in terms of the expectation here. So do you have a response for that?
Thank you, Commissioner. In traffic engineering's comments, they state that the alley is developed. and it is maintained. Unfortunately, I can't speak to what schedule alleys may be on. If you would like to recess for 5 minutes, I could try to research that, but I don't unfortunately have the answer to the street maintenance schedule.
So it's pretty obvious when a grader has been down the alley. And since we've been building on the lot for almost a year now, I've only seen evidence of a grader being through twice. Once this summer and then once so far this winter.
The one picture in there has me, or it's the car stuck in the alley, and that was our next door neighbor, and I helped him dig his car out and get out of there. And one of the comments he said, I think I have it on there, is that he has never seen the city plow this alley. It's the church at the end that takes care of it. But that's, that's secondhand.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the petitioner or staff?
I have a question. To the staff. So it seems to me that we are applying all these standards to a neighborhood that doesn't even has majority, like 80% of the neighborhood doesn't has alleys. So, and probably about 80% of the houses have a driveway in the front. So I just don't get why are we applying standards to a neighborhood that it's not the traditional alley neighborhood. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to intend to support the thing once we move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. I understand the concerns and questions raised. The standards are only applicable to lots that have access to a constructed alley. So unfortunately, I can't speak to the other houses that don't have alley access to a constructed alley will not be subject to this standard. So across Alder Drive to the west, those houses do not have alley access, so they are permitted the 24-foot wide driveway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Anyone else? Oh, would you like to speak? Would you like?
Well, that does bring up a good point. Our garage would be built right across the street from where we live, or where we're building, right across the street. It can be built. We wouldn't be here tonight because of it. That seems discriminatory to us. And then also a question was alluded to earlier as to what is the purpose of this code? And that's a very good question. We can't see that it achieves any tangible benefit to anybody. We don't know what the basis for it is.
I have a question for you. What is the width of that alley?
Now, just barely the width of our car.
And then it does divide out and go.
Because it goes to the church and once.
So right now, yeah, we'll need, if you would like to testify on the record, we'll need to have you speak into the microphone.
Sorry. Yeah, it's.
You can bring it down.
It's probably 12 feet wide now, just barely.
It's
The
about
width,
12 feet.
About 12 feet. I don't know, how wide's the car?
In looking at the aerial view, and it looks like it's not even the width of half the street, and I find that to be a complicated entrance into a garage.
It's very small, and you couldn't pass another car.
Right. Okay.
Behind our house.
Okay.
Yeah, when our next door neighbor backs out of his, he has to be careful he doesn't hit the fence on the other side.
Got it. Okay. If there are no other questions for the petitioner or staff.
Commissioner Ream?
Yes.
To provide clarity, on page 7, there is a plot plan of the property, and the alley at the narrowest point is 20 feet wide. Unfortunately, there's not a dimension for where it splits to go to Sunrise Drive.
That's the easement width, that's not the road width.
Correct.
Understood. Okay, if there are no other questions for staff or the petitioner, we will close the public hearing, and I would like to put a motion on the floor. Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner Sullivan, would you please just state your motion?
Yes, I will, I'll make a motion to approve case 2023-0022. Okay, sorry. I'm moving case 2023-0022 to approve a variance from AMC 210711 0F4, site access alleys to allow 24-foot wide curb cut and driveway and 2-car garage fronting outdoor drive, subject to the conditions shown on page 5 of the staff report.
Thank you. We have a second from Commissioner Gordy, so Commissioner Sullivan, you may now speak to your motion.
Yes, I would like to speak to my motion. I'm sorry. I'll be slow, but here we come. I would like to talk to the findings of the municipality. The proposed alternative achieves the intent, number A, the proposed alternative achieves the intent of the subject design standard to the same or better degree than the subject standard. The standard is not met. I don't agree with that. I think that this standard should not be applied to this specific site since the neighborhood doesn't have alleys mostly. The proposed alternative achieves the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan to the same or better degree than the subject standard. I think the standard is met. I think it's, the fabric and the pattern of the alleys. I mean, again, I don't think this standard should be applied specifically to this neighborhood. C, the proposed alternative results in benefits to the community that are equivalent to or better than the compliance with the subject standard. I think they just mentioned they will park inside. I think it will be less cars in the street and it will improve the neighborhood. I don't think this standard should be applied again. D, the variance, if granted, will not adversely affect the use of adjacent property as permitted under this code. I don't think they're going to be affected. There's a lot of driveways in the neighborhood that are facing the street. The standard is met. The variance, if granted, does not change the character of the zoning district where the property is located. It is in keeping with the intent of the code and does not permit a use not otherwise permitted in the district in which the property lies. This standard is partially met. This is permitted use in R1, single-family residential district, and granting this design variance would not permit a use not otherwise permitted. However, the intent of AMC 210711 110F4 alleys is to promote vehicles access from the rear alleys and reduce the impact of front yard driveways in other urban neighborhoods. I think the alley is not very well maintained, and if that was the opposite, I think maybe I will support that it's partially met, but I think the standard is met. Persons with disabilities are provided with access as required by the Americans with Disabilities Act and reasonable accommodation. The standard is met. The variance is not related to ADA accessibility or reasonable accommodations, but it will grant access to people in an easier way in case there's an emergency or something. The variance, if granted, does not affect the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the municipality. The standard is met. Enabling the request for a variance from the maximum sign height, this standard is, it doesn't apply. The department is recommending that we deny the variance, but I truly think that the standard should not be applied to this site. We're here to support the code, but I think in this case, I don't agree with the code applying to this site.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner Gordy, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes. I agree with Commissioner Sullivan that I intend to support the motion. And I agree with Commissioner Sullivan that I think if the alley was more maintained, wider, and more consistently dispersed throughout this neighborhood, it would make more sense to me that this be a strict requirement. And I also agree that we are here to uphold Title 21. And I do know that this is a more traditional neighborhood with smaller homes and front yards. But I don't think it is applicable in this area. It doesn't make sense to me that you could build across the street and build the same thing in the same neighborhood and subdivision without having the restriction on your driveway access. I think that's kind of all I have to say on the matter. I think there's good intent here to preserve traditional neighborhoods, but I don't think it applies in this case.
Is there anyone else who wishes to provide findings or facts or speak to the motion? Hearing none, I have a couple of findings that I'd like to also add. With respect to Standard A, the proposed alternative achieving the intent of the subject design standard to the same or better degree, staff has said that this will result in decreased visibility on the main street due to increased number of vehicles. Vehicles parked in garages do not increase the number of vehicles on the street. Decreased visibility comes from parking in the street. And traffic says there are no safety concerns with respect to where this driveway is located if it were 24 feet wide. Additionally, in viewing the pictures, the alley not being maintained is a safety hazard. The same response is also for C. The proposed alternative results in benefits to the community that are equivalent to or better than compliance with the subject standard. Vehicles will park on the street, and that is not keeping in character with a neighborhood where vehicles are supposed to be behind the homes. That's not happening. The character is that people park in the road. Additionally, there are other homes on this street prior to the change in Title 21 who have 2-car garages. So we're not changing the character of this neighborhood by providing a house with a 2-car garage. And that goes for Standard E as well. 2-car garages do not change the character of the neighborhood. Okay, those were the findings that I wanted to add. If there's no other discussion, then I think we can move to a vote.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion passes. Thank you for coming, and yes. Enjoy your tea. Okay. Can somebody go get Edith? Can we please go grab Edith? Thank you. Okay.
And a vice chair.
And then you say, okay, now no one nominated vice chair, and then we vote. And we do it until someone wins. And it has to
Yeah.
be thought.
And you can vote for yourself.
So I have to make sure to tell everybody they can vote for themselves.
Right.
So we don't have an abstain.
Do you want to, because there's no April meeting, there aren't any cases for April.
Okay.
So April 12th will be it. You're done. So do you want to let them know that?
For
So
record.
nobody asked, you're just cooing the whole time, just cooing. Oh my God.
laughing at one point, and I was like,
We're still on record, but yeah.
can I ask a question, like, procedural, does that need to be, like?
Yes, you're still on record. It's still recording. Okay.
I'll announce the next agenda item.
Okay.
Assuming you're talking about it in the election.
I'm sorry, do you want me to leave any of the water? Do you guys want any water?
I was terrified that like halfway through.
Do you have enough water? Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner McKee is back in the room. The last item on our agenda is in fact the annual election of officers, which we postponed to now. I just want to make the statement that the April meeting will be my last meeting, and I've just been informed, I don't believe we have any cases for April, so it's been a good 9 years. And, but I look forward to what you guys continue to provide. Why am I getting teary? Okay. Okay, so moving on to annual election. So what is the way this works? Someone will nominate someone for chair. We will make a vote, and then if that passes, we will move on to vice chair. Remember, you can vote for yourself. And I believe, do you have a procedural question, Commissioner Nanalo?
Yeah, so, sorry, just because we're a short board tonight.
We have 6.
Oh, we have 6, right, okay, because, right, Commissioner McKee is now, okay.
So you probably don't want to abstain from voting for yourself if you want to be chair.
Vote for Julius.
Somehow I don't think I'm going to really worry about that particular situation too much, but yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So does anyone want to nominate the chair? Well, Commissioner
Yeah.
Gordy?
I would like to nominate Edith McKee, Commissioner McKee, as chair.
Okay. Can we get a second? Oh, Commissioner Nanalo. And a vote.
Commissioner Cox?
I don't recommend it
Yes.
to anybody.
There was some background talk. Is that yes?
Yes, that was yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. Congratulations, Commissioner McKee. You are Chair McKee starting April. Okay, moving on to Vice Chair. Can we get a nomination for Vice Chair?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Gordy.
Commissioner Gordy has been nominated. Would you like to make a motion on that, Commissioner Cox? Well, we need to...
when it comes to, did you want me to speak or no?
No, I just wanted to make sure that you would make the motion, and then I'll just need a second. I was just clarifying.
Okay, yes, I would like to motion for Commissioner Gordy to be our next vice chair.
Okay. We have a second from Commissioner McKee, and if there's no more discussion, then we can move to a vote.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that motion passes. So congratulations, Commissioner Gordy as Vice Chair. And that concludes all of the items on our agenda this evening. Unless there's anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, please, Commissioner McKee.
I would like to thank Commissioner Chair for her 9 years of service to the municipality of Anchorage. It's no small contribution of your time and your effort and your consideration to the cases that have come before you, and the excellent mentorship that you have given. I'm going to miss you for, one, I'm your friend, but also because I feel very mentored by you in the role that you've served on the commission. And I think that your selfless service to the municipality of Anchorage should be received with gratitude.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, one of my mentors.
Can I actually also chime in really quickly before we move on? I would also like to thank Chair Ream for your service. It's been great. I feel like you've steered this ship very well for the time that I've been on this board, which was a pretty overwhelming thing to join at first, but you've definitely directed everything and kind of kept everybody in line and steered the ship in a really good direction, and it's very much appreciated. I believe what Commissioner McKee said about mentorship is very true. So thank you.
Thank you.
We'll miss your knowledge for sure. I'm hoping that we get another civil engineer.
We have one.
Yeah, but she's the chair. Sometimes they don't get that much. Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Yes, no, I do hope so as well. We need to be well represented.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now my apologies.
Through the chair, I just wanted to mention, since there is no April meeting, I'll be scheduling a Teams meeting, special meeting, so we can approve these resolutions in the minutes.
Oh, so I need to be there. I need to be there.
It'll be, yeah. Thank you.
How does that work? I'll still be chair for that. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. But Edith will be chair? We'll talk later. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn? I have a motion from Commissioner McKee and a second from Commissioner Nanalo. Thank you guys very much. It's been great.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox.